Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, I am Professor Kavita Solanki at University School of Law and Legal Studies, Guru Gobind Singh, Indraprastha University, Delhi, Dwarka. Today we will talk about Unorganized Social Security Act 2008. Into this, what kind of the coverage has been made under this act, what kind of the central government schemes has been framed, what kind of the state government schemes, how the funding can be made, and who would be coming under the coverage of this unorganized sector. So, and we are having the system for the facilitation center who is eligible to get the benefit under this code, under this act, Unorganized Social Security Act 2008. Before the passing of this act, we had no legislation for the protection of the unorganized sector. So, unorganized sector, because we are having NSSO data, it has been released in 2010, and it has been clearly mentioned that is 92% of the workforce who is doing the work into the unorganized sector. But we had no policies, we had no schemes for the protection of the unorganized sector. So after passing of this Unorganized Social Security Act, the kind of the scheme has been framed for the protection of these workers. We can say the facilitation center has been provided. The definition has been given under this act, where we are talking about whom we will say unorganized sector, who is a wage worker, or who is how much the threshold is required if we are having the number of the unorganized sector. So if we see that is 70% of the female workers, they are doing the work into the unorganized sector, either domestic helpers or vegetable vendors, rickshaw pullers. When we see, because they are not having, these workers, they are not having any kind of the schemes or any kind of the benefit or policy which has been formulated for them. So this is just because passing of this act, we are having so many things could be on place, so they can get the benefit, applicability of this act. And this act is applicable to the whole of India, and the name is Unorganized Workers Social Security Act 2008, and it applies to basically unorganized sector. And when we say that is unorganized sector, means we are saying that is an enterprises which are owned by individual, self-employed workers, and those engaged into the production or sale of goods or providing services of any kind of whatsoever. They would be coming under this ambit of the unorganized sector. And where the enterprise employs workers, the number of the worker is lesser than 10, then they would be coming under the parameter of the unorganized worker. Basically, when we see the coverage of this act is, it covers basically unorganized workers, it covers home-based workers, self-employed workers, wage workers. But nowadays, that is Code on Social Security, which has been passed in 2020, into which the ambit has been, under that code, we have included gig workers, platform workers into the ambit of this. And the unorganized sector, the persons who are not covered by any of the act which has been mentioned into the schedule 2 of this act, they are covered under this act. So they would be covered, because into this act has been passed on 30th of December 2008, and it was enforced on 16th May 2009. And this act basically consists of 6 chapters, 17 sections and 2 schedules. First is, we are going to take the important definitions. So for the understanding of this act, who is an employer? So employer means, it has been defined in section 2A, means a person or association of persons who has engaged or employed an unorganized worker either directly or otherwise for the remuneration. So the person has employed either a person one person or it can be more than one person, association of person, and those who are doing the work into the any kind of the work, but in lieu of this they are getting the remuneration. After that, the home-based worker means it has been defined in section 2b, means a person engaged in the production of goods or services for an employer in his or her home or other premises of his or her choice other than the place of the employer. Sometimes what happened, because when we see the piece rate of the workers, it is not necessary they would be they would be doing the work at the employer's premises. So sometimes what they do, they can do the work. Say for example, either we are talking about the papad or we are saying other tailoring work, other kind of these things. So it is not necessary like the home-based worker, they would be they have to reside, they have to work into the employer's premises. So if they are doing the work from their own home, they would be coming under this home-based worker, but of course for the remuneration, irrespective of whether or not the employer provide the equipments, materials or other inputs. So sometimes it is not necessary the employer would be providing them equipments or these kind of the materials. So they can decide, say for example, pickles, workers, tailor, they use their own equipment. So it doesn't make any difference, but they would be coming under the definition of the home-based worker. So after that, 2 clause C talks about identity card. It means a card or document or certificate which has been issued to an unorganized worker by the district administration. So under subsection 3 of section 10, basically this I-card is a kind of the document. So they issued this kind of the I-card to the unorganized workers, so by which they can get the benefit. They can register themselves. Once they get the I-card, they can avail this scheme. They can get the benefit of the government schemes, either which has been issued by the central government or by the state governments. So registration, like who can go for the registration? Here who would be eligible for the registration here under this act is, so it is necessary that because the central government can give the directions who can get the benefit. So here under this act, registration and the social security benefits. So who would be eligible or entitled for the registration and social security benefit? For this, like every unorganized worker can be eligible for the registration, but subject to the conditions. So first is he or she have to completed the 14 years of age. They have to complete this age, and a self-declaration has to be given by them. That is, they have to tell that they are the unorganized workers. So they have to make this kind of the declaration. And every eligible unorganized worker shall make an application to the district administration for the registration, but of course it has to be into the prescribed forum, and they can give the application to the district administration, so they can be registered. Every unorganized worker shall be registered, and they can get the identity card by the district administration, which shall be a smart card, and they would be carrying a unique identity number, and so that would be the unique identity number, and that would be portable, because sometimes it's like a Aadhaar card, so they would be getting the their unique identity number, so they can carry their card with them, and it's very small size card and it's a portable. They can carry with with them at the time of doing the work, and if they want to avail the benefit, so this is this iCard can be registered, can be issued to them. If a scheme requires a registered unorganized worker to make a contribution, so he and she shall be eligible for the social security benefit under the scheme, and only upon the payment of such a contribution. So sometimes what happen, if they want to get the benefit of any kind of the scheme, so for this what the government can do, they can impose this kind of the condition upon the unorganized worker. See, they have to give the contribution for this kind of and that contribution is nominal. It's a very less amount. So this kind of the duty can be imposed upon the unorganized worker. If they want to get the benefit for this kind of the scheme, they have to make the contribution for this. And where a scheme requires the central or the state government to make a contribution, so central and the state government, they would be making the contribution regularly in terms of the scheme. So sometimes what happen, either PF or pension scheme, provident fund. We are having these kind of the schemes for the government, employees, or we can say the organized sector. It's like this kind of this thing, but they would be making a very less contribution for this. So sometime if it is required, the state government, they would be making the contribution into these schemes, or the state government or the central government. So accordingly they would be making the contribution, these kind of the schemes for the benefit of the unorganized workers. We are having the national boards. So whom we would be saying the national board, it has been defined in section 2D. It means a national security board for the unorganized worker, and it has been constituted in subsection 1 of section 5. Into the Unorganized Social Security Act, we are having the boards. We are having the National Social Security Board. We are having the State Social Security Board. Like the nomenclature has been given, who would be the member and what kind of the work they would be doing. So for the better implementation of this act, we are having, that's why the provision of the setup of the State Social Security Board has been constituted, and National Social Security Board has been constituted. So in chapter 3, we are having the National Social Security Board, and it has been set up for the unorganized workers. And here the central government, it's a National Social Security Board, so appropriate government would be the central government. So they would be notifying, and they will constitute a board, and the name is that is a National Social Security Board, and to exercise, they would be exercising the powers which has been given to them, and they would be performing the functions which has been assigned to them under this act. This board shall consist of basically of 34 members, and which would be nominated by the central government. Other than these 34 members, there would be the chairman. So for this National Social Security Board, there would be the chairman, and this chairman would be the union minister for the labor and the employment. Secretary, that is the member secretary, is a Director General Labor Welfare. So other than this, we are having the 34 members. They would be nominated by the central government, and they would be like 7 representative has to be there from the unorganized sector, and the 7 representation can be given from the unorganized worker side, and 7 representing employers has to be unorganized sector. So there would be 7 members would be there, and the 7 representing eminent person from the civil society. So they can take the eminent persons from the civil society. So again the number would be 7, and 2 representing members from the Lok Sabha. They would be taking the 2 members from the Lok Sabha and 1 member from the Rajya Sabha, and 5 representing members, that is a central government ministry and the department concerned. So they would be taking the 5 members from the central government ministries, and 5 representing members they would be taking from the state government. So in that way they would be constituting, and after that we are having the chairman here and the other members of the board, and they would be among the persons of the eminence in the field of the labor welfare, management, finance, law and the administration. So the chairman can take the members that is who are good into all these fields. So either it is a case of the labor welfare, HR, like finance, law, administration, so they can take these members. And so because the chairperson and the other members of the board, they can represent from all these fields. The number of the persons which have been nominated as a members from each of the categories. So the terms of the office and the other condition of the service of the members, and the procedure which they have to be followed, and what kind of the function they have to discharge, and the manner of filling vacancies among the members. So in that way the national board they can prescribe, and but it is necessary that a national board would be prescribing, but it is necessary that they must have to take the adequate representation has to be given by the persons from scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and minorities and the women. So it is necessary that they must have to be the part of it. the term of the national board would be the 3 years. So, and this national board, they would be meeting, at least thrice in a year. They have to meet, and after that they can decide the time and they can decide the place, and they have to observe such a kind of the rules and the procedures which are very important, and so they can how they would be doing the meeting, that has to be prescribed. They may receive the such a allowances which has been prescribed by the that has been prescribed by the central government. So they would be entitled to get the allowances and for attending the meetings of the national board. So this kind of the allowances has to be given. What kind of the functions this national board would be doing? So basically this national board would be performing, what they can do is they can recommend to the central government, and they can recommend the suitable schemes for the different sections of the unorganized workers. So they can recommend the schemes, how they can be uplifted, what kind of the schemes can be better for the unorganized workers. So they would be recommending and proposing it to the central government, and this national board would be advising the central government and on a matters which are arising out of the administration of this act, how the work can be done, how the things can be simplified. So they would be giving the advices. And other than this, they would be, this national board members, they would be monitoring such as social welfare schemes for the unorganized workers, and that is like, because the monitoring is very, very important. So that's why they would be taking this kind of the procedures, and after that they can review the progress of the registration, and they can review how they are making the registration, and what is the progress, how many persons they have enrolled under this schemes, and after that issue of the identity card to the unorganized workers. So they can review all this, like how they are making the registration, and they are issuing the cards, and how many persons they have been come under the ambit of this under the benefit. And they can review the record keeping functions and performed by the state level. We are having the state members also, so they can review and they can keep a record, and like how they are performing the work, and they can review the expenditure from the funds from under various schemes, because now under the Unorganized Social Security Act we are having the schemes has been given. So they would be making the review, how they have to see the budget, they have to see like how much the expenses has been done from the funds, and they can undertake such other functions which has been assigned to it by the central government from time to time. So sometime the additional duties can be imposed by the central government, so they would be discharging those duties as well. So they would be doing. And after that, notification means the notification which has been published into the official gazette. Unorganized sector, the definition has been given in section 2F. It means an enterprise which is not an unorganized sector. So organized sector means which is not the unorganized sector. They are organized. It means they are having all the protection has been given it for them, either gratuity, provident fund, because some comes under the benefit of the ESI, Employee State Insurance Act. So they are having these kind of the privileges. So that's why they are the organized, because we are having the 8% that comes under the organized sector. So, and for this, the rules can be framed, can be prescribed by the central governments or by the state governments. So, whom we would be saying a registered worker. So, means here registered worker means only the unorganized work who has been registered here under this act. The schedule means which has been annexed to this act. So, we are having the two schedules. State board, it means the name of the state. So, state social security board for the unorganized workers. So, for example, we can say state Gujarat social security board, or we can use the name of the state, because every state they are having their different security boards. So, after that chapter 4, into which section 6 to 9 has been given. Earlier we were talking about the National Social Security Board for the unorganized sector. Now we are taking a State Social Security Board for the unorganized sector, and we are having a very little difference into these two. In section 6, State Social Security Board, every state government shall by notification constitute a state board to be known as name of state. I mentioned that like Gujarat Social Security Board, Madhya Pradesh Social Security Board, or it can be any of the state. So State Social Security Board to exercise the powers which has been conferred and to perform the functions assigned to it and under this act. So what kind of the functions and the power has been given, they would be performing. After that, into the state board, that would be consist of these members, namely there would be the chairperson has to be there, and who is the ex officio. A chairperson would be the Minister of Labour and Employment of the concerned state. So the state government, because the person who is a minister of that department, Labour and the Employment of that particular state, would be the chairperson, and there would be the principal secretary of that, principal secretary Labour. So would be the member who is there would be 28 members. National Social Security Board, there were 34 members. So here we are having the 28 members. They would be nominated by the state government, and out of whom 7 representatives of the unorganized workers, 7 representative employers of the unorganized workers, 2 representative members of the legislative assembly of that concerned state, 5 representative eminent persons from civil society, and 7 representing state government department concerned. And so again the similar kind of thing. Here again the chairperson and the other members of the board shall be from the amongst person of the eminence and in the field of the labor welfare, management, finance, law and administration. So these persons, they can be from these fields. The number of the persons to be nominated as a member from each of the categories. So, and the term of the office and the condition of service of the members, the procedure to be followed in discharge of their functions, and the manner of filling the vacancies among the members and the state board shall be, they have to prescribe. It's like National Social Security Board. It's a similar kind of the provision has been given. Provided the adequate representation shall be given to the persons who are belonging to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, minority and the women. We are having the similar provision has been given here under this. So terms of this state board shall be of 3 years. The state board shall meet at least once in a quarter. So they would be meeting, once in a quarter, and at such a time, so after 3 months they would be meeting, and that a time and the place, and they will take care of all these rules of the procedure relating with the business, and that can be prescribed. So this is they can plan accordingly. They are entitled to receive the allowances, and that has to be again prescribed. And for attending the meetings of the state board, so they are entitled to get the allowances. And these state boards, they would be performing the functions like they can recommend the state governments, because earlier this national board, they were giving the recommendation to the central government, but here it's a state board, so they can give the recommendation to the state government in formulating the suitable schemes for the different sections of the unorganized workers, and they can give the advice the state governments on a matter which are arising out of the administration of this act, and they can monitor the schemes of such a welfare schemes for the unorganized workers, and they can review the record keeping functions, and they can review the progress of the registration, and they can issue the cards to the unorganized sectors workers, and they can review the expenditure from the funds under the various schemes, how much they can see the budgeting, the similar kind of the functions, but at the state level has to be performed by the state boards, and undertake any other such functions which has been assigned to it by the state government from time to time. Sometimes the state government, they assign more work, they assign the more duties, so they would be performing the other duties which has been assigned it to the state boards from time to time. After that, again important definitions, self-employed worker, whom we would be saying the self-employed workers. So means any person who is not employed by the employer but engages themselves into the any kind of the occupation in the unorganized sector, subject to a monthly earning of the amount as has been notified by the central government or the state government from time to time, or hold the cultivable land subject to such a ceiling as may be notified by the state government. So these persons, they are not self-employed, because like we can see from the definition, self-employed, they are doing the work their own and own. So but and they holds the cultivable land they are having, but of course with a ceiling which has been notified by the state government. Unorganized sector means an enterprise owned by individuals or self-employed persons and engaged into the production of or sale of goods or providing services of any kind whatsoever, and where the enterprises employs workers, the number of such a worker is less than 10. So sometime when we talk about the parlors, these kind of the service providers, they can come under the definition of the unorganized workers. So unorganized worker, who would be, what kind of the coverage has been given? So who would be coming under the category of the unorganized worker is, so we have included the home-based workers, wage earners. So they would be coming under the category of the unorganized sector, and they includes a worker into the unorganized sector who is not covered by any of the act which has been mentioned into the schedule 2nd of this act. See, organized sector, because for the organized sectors we are having the laws, we are having the policies, and they have been covered. They are having the social security schemes, they are covered, and that's why they would be getting the benefit. But if any of the worker has not been covered under this particular schedule, that is the schedule 2, then these persons, if they are not covered under these acts, they would be coming under the definition of the unorganized workers. So because into schedule 2 we can see that if any of the worker has not been covered under the Workmen Compensation Act 1923, the Industrial Dispute Act 1947, the Employees State Insurance Act 1948, Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952, the Maternity Benefit Act 1961, the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. See, these workers, they are not covered under these, six social security legislation. So automatically they would be coming under the definition of the unorganized workers. Now the important definition is wage worker. So into section 2, and it has been defined, whom we would be saying wage worker. So means a person who has been employed for the remuneration in the unorganized sector. So first is the person who has been employed for the remuneration. It means the person would be providing the work, would be providing the services, would be doing the work, and in lieu of this the person would be getting the wages. So this is because the person is who has been employed for the remuneration into the unorganized sector, either directly by the employer or through any contractor, irrespective of the place of work. He can be placed at any, he can do any kind of the work, whether exclusively by one employer or more than one employer, whether in cash or in kind, whether as a home-based worker or a temporary or casual workers or a migrant worker or workers employed by household including the domestic workers with a monthly wage as an amount which has been notified by the central government and the state government as the case may be. So wage worker, so number one, wage worker, they are coming under the category of the unorganized workers. So they are doing their work, they are discharging their duties, and they are getting the payment. So what kind of the payment they are getting? Sometime they are getting the money direct, cash. Sometime the payment can be done through the kind payments can be given, and they can be employed directly, sometime by the indirectly, sometime with the help of the employer, and they are doing the duty for one employer. Sometime they are having the more than one employer. We can see normally the domestic workers or the housemaids, they are coming, domestic helpers, they are coming under the definition of the wage earner. But for that, the monthly wages of these workers, wage earners, has been fixed. They have to be notified by the state government or the central government. See, when we see many of the states like Kerala, they have fixed their wages of the domestic workers. So, but these workers, they are included under the Scheduled Employment of the Minimum Wages Act. So, in that case, no employer, they can reduce their minimum wages which has been given under the Scheduled Employment. So, for this, state government and the central government, they can fix the wages for these wage workers. So, chapter 2 talks about social security benefits. So, for this, the framing of the schemes. So, central government, they can formulate the schemes, and they can notify even, and they can add on the scheme from time to time, and suitable welfare schemes for the unorganized workers, especially on the matter which are related to the life and the disability cover, how their life and the disability can be covered. Otherwise, for the organized sector, we are having the Employee Compensation Act, we are having the ESI, we are having the other schemes. So, especially they can frame the they can frame the schemes for the life and the disability, health and the maternity benefit, how the health of any of the worker can be maintained, what kind of maternity benefit can be given. So, nowadays we are having the Shishu Yojana, we are having the other kind of the maternity benefits. So, like if we are talking about the health, so we are having the so many health centers where they are taking care of the they provide the multivitamins to the pregnant women and to the workers, and the old age protections. So, how the old age, what kind of benefit can be given to the old age persons, and the other kind of the benefit which can be determined by the central government. So, they can frame the schemes for this, and because they are the welfare schemes, and time to time what the central government can do, they can notify these kind of the schemes, and they want to make the changes into this, and they can add on into the schedules which they are annexed to this act. And again, the state government, even they can formulate the welfare schemes for the unorganized sectors, and into which the state government would be making the schemes leading to the provident fund. So, they would be state government, they will take care of the provident fund part, PF, and employment injury benefit if someone has been injured. So, what can be done for that person? Housing. So, sometime we talk about affordable housing. So, this kind of the schemes can be framed by the state government. Education schemes for the children. So, sometime we see Ladli Yojana. We are having this kind of the schemes where we promote the children, and sometimes we promote the girl child. So, and upgradation of the workers. So, how they can be skilled, these workers are. We are having Skill India. We are having this kind of the policies where we can give the benefit, or funeral assistance. So, sometime if no one is into the family to bear this kind of the expenses at the time of the death, so the state government, they provide the funeral this kind of the assistance, and the old age homes. So, can be this kind of the schemes can be framed by the state government. After that, funding of the state government schemes, because the funding is very, very important. So, if any of the scheme which has been notified by the state government, so that can be wholly funded by the state government. Sometime what happened, that can be partly funded by the state government, partly funded through the contributions which has been collected from the beneficiaries of this scheme or the employers. So, they can do in that way. So, sometime this kind of the burden can be distributed, and state government, they can seek the financial assistance from the central government for the schemes which they have formulated, and the central government may provide such a financial assistance to the state governments for the purpose of the schemes, and for such a period, and on such a terms and the condition as it may deem fit. So, this kind of the contribution can be, they can get the funding from the central government can provide the financial funding to the state government. So, but they can they can decide the terms and the condition, and for how long this kind of the contribution can be, or the funding can be given by the central government. Now the record keeping by the district administration, this is very important. Record keeping, this is a very important functions for the purpose of this act, and it has to be performed by the district administration. So provided that the state government may direct that the record keeping function shall be performed. So in that case, because the state government, they would be assigning this duty, and that would be the state government can give the direction to the district panchayat. Say for example, rural areas, they would be taking care of the record at the time, and state government, they can give the direction to the urban local bodies, urban areas, just to take care of the maintain the record. So because they will come to know how many persons they are enrolled, how many persons they are getting the benefit from these policies. So this is record keeping is very important for the purpose of this act. After that, workers facilitation center. So again, the state government, they may set up such a kind of the workers facilitation center, and which is very important and considered very necessary from time to time, and they would be performing important functions. So the workers facilitation center, they would be set up by the state government, and they would be doing the work like relating to the disseminate the information on the available social security schemes for the unorganized sector. So if we want to be having this kind of the facilitation center, so how this person they will come to know. So that's why it is very important that this kind of the center has to be set up, so people they can get the information, they will come to know about this kind of the scheme is running by these governments, and the unorganized sector, they can get the benefit, and facilitate the this kind of the filing, processing and forwarding of the application forms for the registration of the unorganized sector. So what they can do is they can enroll, they can give their applications, and they can register themselves to get the benefit. And for this worker facilitation center person, what they would be doing, they can assist the unorganized workers to obtain the registration from the district administration, and they can facilitate and enroll of the registered unorganized worker in a social security scheme. So what they can do is they can they can start their account, they can facilitate, they can enroll themselves, so they can avail the benefit under this, and they can help the unorganized sector, so they can get the benefit out of these schemes. Chapter 6 talks about the miscellaneous, so into which here central government can give the directions to the national board, and they can give the direction to the government of a state boards, that is in respect to the implementation of the provisions. So this power is with the central government to because for the better implementation of the scheme, the direction can be given to these respective these boards and the state governments. Section 13 talks about power to make the rules by the central government, because the central government, they can notify and they can make the rules to carry out the provisions. So they can, central government is having the power, they can frame the rules for the better functioning of this act. And so the contribution to be collected from the beneficiaries of this scheme, and employees contribution, and the number of the persons to be nominated, and the terms of the office, and the condition of the service of the members. So all these things, they can frame the rules which are for the better functioning of this act. So and rules and the procedures which are relating to the what kind of the business would be coming under this, how the allowances can be given for attending to all these important things. In section 14, power has been given to the state governments. Again, the state government, even the similar kind of the functions they can carry out, and so because here the state government is competent, they can notify and they can make the rules to carry out the provisions of this act, and similar kind of the rules would be laid down by the government. So in section 17, power to remove the difficulties. Sometime what happen if any difficulty arises, and when we are implementing this act, then the state government can issue publish an order into the official gazette and make the provisions. If any of the provision under the act is not consistent with the provision of this act, inconsistent provisions we are having, say for example, then in that case the state government is competent and they can remove these kind of the difficulties. But no such order shall be made unless this section after the expiry of the period of 2 years from the commencement of this act. So these kind of the orders can be given by the central government after the completion of the 2 years from the commencement of this act. So into this act we are having the 2 schedules only. The second schedule was talking about those who are not covered under the 6 social security legislations, they can be covered here. So, and your schedule 1, social security schemes for the unorganized sector. So in schedule 1, what kind of the social schemes we are having, like we can say the welfare schemes unorganized sector. So these schemes are Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Schemes, we are having National Family Benefit Scheme, we are having the Janani Suraksha Yojana, Handloom Waivers, Comprehensive Welfare Schemes, Handicraft Artisan Comprehensive Welfare Schemes, Pension to the Master Craft Persons, National Scheme for the Welfare of the Fishermen and Training and Extension, Janshri Bima Yojana, Aam Aadmi Bima Yojana, and we are having the Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. So when into schedule 1, we are having 10 schemes has been given. So for the unorganized workers welfare, last scheme, Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. So like this kind of the scheme is a national health insurance scheme, and it was implemented by the Ministry of the Labour and Employment and the Government of India. So this is the central government schemes, and it has been implemented by the Ministry of Health and the Family Welfare. Into this scheme, Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, it provides cashless health insurance, and it includes the maternity benefit, and it covers up to the 30,000 rupees. And this scheme is available, and especially for the unorganized sector and those who come under the below poverty line, they can avail the benefit through this scheme. This scheme is family member BPL family, consisting of 5 members, and it is operational and with effect from 1st of April 2008. And under this scheme, they provides the hospitalization even facility, but these hospitals, they have to be on a panel, and paneled hospital has to be there. So under this scheme, so they can avail the benefit, like all the beneficiary or family members, those who pay 30 rupees contribution by the unorganized sector. So sometime because it's a mandate, but they give the namesake contribution. So under this scheme, when we talk about Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, so here the employee, they would be unorganized sector employee, they would be giving the 30 rupees per annum, and the family can get the benefit. So, and they can be registered, they can and for this kind of the administrative cost has to be borne by the state government. Every BPL family on a registration, they would be entitled to get a smart card, and because they would be having their fingerprints and the photographs, is like a Aadhaar, they would be getting their card, and they would be entitled for the hospitalization even. So the coverage has been given it to all the pre-existing diseases. Say if someone is having the disease right now, or earlier any kind of the ailment the person is having, they would be getting the benefit. And if the person is going to the hospital, and for this the person is spending transportation cost of rupees here, if the person is spending the money for the transportation, so the person would be entitled to get the 100 rupees per visit. So this is a very good legislation, we can say that. But under this legislation, we are having the few shortcomings. So like this act, it does not define the expression social security. So because under this act, this expression has not been given. Yes, of course, the schemes has been provided. This act confers this National Social Security Board with a limited power, and they can recommend suitable schemes, they can advise, monitor welfare schemes, review and the progress of the schemes, but it is not, they are not empowered to implement and enforce social security. If someone is not making the compliance, then in that case, they are not empowered to implement and to enforce, and there is no penalty against the defaulter, employer, or against those who refuse to register unorganized workers specified under the schedule. Say for example, if someone wants to register under this under this act, but if the into the facilitation center, they are not helping, rather they are not available, and they are not taking any interest for the registration of these unorganized workers. So we are not having any panel provisions, so they can be held accountable for this, for not making the compliance. Again, emphasis, this kind of the emphasis has been even given by the standing committee passing of this act. Like any class of the workers who is otherwise entitled to the social security coverage should not be left, merely because the class of the workers has not been included into the definition. So class of workers means, like we were saying, those who are not covered under the organized sector schemes into schedule 2, they would be entitled. We said wage earner, we said organized sectors, we said these kind of things, but we are having other than that. So the other sector has to be included, so broader umbrella has to be created, they can get the benefit of these schemes. So this act provides merely we can say this kind of the skeleton has been provided, but does not provide the effective machinery for the enforcement of this act. Like migrant workers or the women workers, any kind of the disadvantaged groups, they should be included, because already we have seen at the time of COVID, we had the Interstate Migrant Workers Act, but it was not working. So when we see the condition of the migrant workers, when we see those persons who are at the disadvantageous positions, so the coverage has to be given to these persons other than the BPL to under this Social Security Act, so they can get the benefit of these schemes. All the schemes which has been mentioned under this act are applicable on the persons, those who are below the poverty line, or certain specified trades, but not specifically to the unorganized persons. So because this kind of the the coverage has to be broad, so we can give the benefit to all these persons. So, and these all 10 schemes which has been provided under this act are implemented by the various agencies specified therein, but each schemes prescribe the different criteria. So all these 10 schemes, they are a really good step has been taken by the government. They have been provided for the unorganized sector, but when we see the kind of the individual scheme, they are having their different parameters for the implementation to avail the benefit under that particular scheme. So this kind of thing has to be ratified, and so nowadays this social security legislation has been amalgamated into the Code on Social Security 2020. So the broader aspect can be taken up, and so we can go for the broader coverage. This is about the Unorganized Social Security Act 2008, and this is from my side. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Chitwan Lalji, a PhD student of Health Economics under the supervision of Dr. Debayan Pakrashi from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Kanpur. In one of my essays, I'm interested in understanding the relationship between consumption of fruits and vegetables and various health indicators. Health indicators, both subjective and objective health indicators like mental health, self-assessed health, various measures of blood pressure and various measures of cholesterol. Measures of blood pressure like systolic and diastolic BP, you have your incidence of high BP, MAP, and incidence of high MAP. And as far as cholesterol is concerned, I have tried to concentrate more on total cholesterol, good cholesterol, and incidence of high cholesterol. Now, before I go on to what have been my major contributions and various policy implications, I would like to briefly tell you about the policy initiatives of WHO and various countries. The WHO, that is the World Health Organization, it started with a campaign of 5 a day. That is, you should have 5 portions of fruits and vegetables per day. That would be approximately, you could say, 400 grams of fruits and vegetables. Now, a portion, before we go further, I'll just tell you what exactly is a portion. One portion is equivalent to a medium-sized apple, or one small glass of fruit juice, which is approximately 150 milliliters, and maybe 3 teaspoons of vegetables. So, the WHO went with a 5 a day campaign, which was further taken up by various countries. Countries like UK, Netherlands, Germany, Norway, they adopted the 5 a day policy, while some went for expansionary dietary policies like France, Australia, Canada, Denmark. So, for example, Australia, it went for 2+5 policy, in which it said that you should consume 2 portions of fruits and 5 portions of vegetables per day. And USA went for a policy of fruits and vegetables more matters. That is, you must consume more and more fruits and vegetables. Now, irrespective of these expansionary dietary policies and dietary propagations, it has been found that only 28% of women and 25% of men, they actually meet the recommended dietary norms of 5 a day portion. So, the major contribution of my work is firstly to find an association between fruits and vegetables, whether there exists a relationship between fruits and vegetables and health indicators, and if they exist, whether due to heterogeneity in the data. So, I will be doing it according to age, by gender, and by your weight. So, apart from that, I will go for policy recommendations, in which I am basically studying how much fruits and vegetables matter. Apart from that, which type matters more. So, for that, I have taken data from the Health Survey of England. Health Survey of England is an annual survey which takes data, which conducts information regularly on demographic and socioeconomic characteristics. You have your lifestyle behaviors, like an individual smokes or doesn't smoke, alcohol consumption, you have your sedentary and physical activities, and you have various health indicators also which have been collected. Before I go on to what exactly is my research, I would like to concentrate more on fruits and vegetables, like what kind of questions were asked in the survey. Questions like, what kind of fresh fruit do you eat? Did you eat any dried fruit yesterday? Don't count dried fruits in cereals, cakes. Apart from that, for vegetables, they asked how many tablespoons of vegetables did you eat yesterday? So, approximately after this whole survey was conducted, data was converted into portions of fruits, and like for example, 3 tablespoons of vegetables is equivalent to 1 portion. So, data was converted and provided to the users, that is us, from the UK Data Health Survey. So, the major contributions of my paper is that I found a strong negative association between intake of fruits and self-assessed health, then various measures of blood pressure like mean arterial pressure, mean arterial pressure, high blood pressure, systolic and diastolic BP, and your total cholesterol. Apart from that, I have found a strong positive association between consumption of vegetables and good cholesterol. So, it is recommended in a way that if you want to control your blood pressure, you must consume more and more fruits. And as far as vegetables are concerned, they impact your good cholesterol. Apart from that, I went in for a falsification test. A falsification test is basically conducted to know whether the model that you have adopted and the conclusions that you are drawing are not spurious. So, if a falsification test is done to know, in a way it is tested by seeing an indicator, a health indicator which is not being impacted by your consumption of fruits and vegetables, and then we see whether there is significant result or not. If there is no significant result, that means your model is good and your results are non-spurious. So, what we did is, for falsification test, we took ear complaints and infectious diseases. Now, ear complaints, like if you are deaf since birth or you have some kind of imbalance, body imbalance, that is not being impacted by your consumption of fruits and vegetables, and we did find insignificant results. Apart from that, infectious diseases like HIV, AIDS, etc., we found similar insignificant results, indicating that our results are not non-spurious. Apart from that, we went, since there was a lot of heterogeneity in the data, like by gender, by age and by weight, we did the regression analysis. We found results which stated that as far as fruits are concerned, it impacts a male's health more than a female's health. So it is basically said a man should consume more fruits to impact his health, whereas as far as vegetables are concerned, they impact a women's health more. But this has been only seen as far as cholesterol is concerned, the various measures of cholesterol like total cholesterol, good cholesterol and your incidence of getting high cholesterol. Now, after this we went in for a policy implication, and in the policy implication we tried to find two policy implications, what matters and exactly how much portion matters. So, as far as how much portion matters, we have found that on an average 5 or more portions of fruits impact your overall health, that is your self-assessed health, your MAP, your incidence of high MAP and incidence of high BP. But if you want to have a good mental health, so you can optimize your mental health by consuming 3 or 4 portions of fruits as well. And similarly, as far as self-assessed health and total cholesterol is concerned, an individual must consume 4 to 5 portions to optimally have the impact of consumption of fruits. Apart from that, vegetables have had a very little impact on your health. It only impacts your incidence of getting high MAP and high BP, and it's seen that only it impacts when you consume 5 or more portions of fruits. So, an optimum consumption of 5 or more portions of fruits and vegetables are recommended, but fruits have a more impact on your overall health, on various measures like self-assessed health, mental health, your various measures of blood pressure and various cholesterol levels. Another thing that we find is which type of fruit matters. It has been seen that all size fruits, they impact your self-assessed health, your systolic and diastolic blood pressure, your mean arterial pressure, your high BP and incidence of getting high MAP and high cholesterol. But we find that as far as frozen fruits or canned fruits are concerned, they help in regulating your incidence of getting high MAP or high BP, but it has a trade-off. That means there is something negative happening. It reduces the good cholesterol in your body. Apart from this, if you have an incidence of getting high cholesterol, it is recommended that you must consume fruit juices because it has a impact in reducing your probability of getting high cholesterol. And dried fruits, they impact your self-assessed health. As far as vegetables are concerned, very little impact has been seen. It has only been seen in case of portion of salads and its association with self-assessed health. Another thing that they have seen is vegetables in composite, they have an association with good cholesterol. So overall, my research basically says that there is an association between consumption of fruits and vegetables and various health indicators, and it is highly recommended that an individual, in order to be healthy, must consume 5 or more portions of fruits and 5 or more portions of vegetables per day, but fruits have a more impact on your overall health. Apart from that, all size fruits, they have a better impact on your overall health, your mental health, various measures of blood pressure and cholesterol. So, thank you.
Of English literature. But we often tend to forget that he has also been one of the most hated figures in literature. And here I am not talking only about those boys and girls who have to memorize long sections from Macbeth or King Lear or Julius Caesar before they can go and sit for their school or college exams. But I am also talking about people who are themselves quite famous authors. Tolstoy, for instance, considered the writings of Shakespeare to be, and I quote, crude, immoral, vulgar and senseless. George Bernard Shaw absolutely loathed Shakespeare, as he did Homer. But perhaps no other criticism about Shakespeare is more damaging than the one which says that Shakespeare is a marvelous storyteller. provided someone has told him the story earlier. Now, this piece of criticism is particularly damaging because it is true. None of Shakespeare's plays contain any original story whatsoever. They are all written using pre-existing materials, pre-existing stories. Now, does that diminish the stature of Shakespeare as a dramatist? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. See you in the next episode of Literary Snippets.